we got your kid screaming in the
I know.
background.
She's honestly, she's
It's
uh, she's
controversial.
she's a libertarian. Um, hey guys, any chance we can take Poppy somewhere where she can make less of a contribution to the podcast?
Zero. Fuck.
Skipping podcast.
Today we're covering the Luigi Mangione saga, mysterious drones swarming New Jersey, Hunter Biden's pardon, and Bryan Johnson's latest attempt at staying young forever. Guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Luigi Mangione was finally caught at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Police say that the 26-year-old had a 3D printed ghost gun and silencer, fake IDs, a letter, and a manifesto that ripped on the healthcare system, especially health insurance industry. And so Mangione is now facing murder charges. But the craziest thing is the outpouring of support online for this murder. So after Thompson's murder, corporates are obviously scrambling to boost security measures, and security firms reported a 30% increase in requests. You have companies like Meta that already spend millions on protection, which they should. That dude's a sociopath. Many CEOs, though, are apparently saying no thanks to bodyguards, opting instead for concealed carry permits. Not if you live in a place like San Francisco, pepper spray pistols, or even bulletproof vests.
Mark Zuckerberg, I think, spends, it's in there about sort of $20 to $30 million, or Meta spend on his behalf. And there have been a number of newspaper articles with pictures of him out jogging, and he's got like a dude here, a dude here, a dude here, a dude here, and then some more dudes on the periphery. Guys, just wait till he's on Lake Tahoe wakeboarding again and just take the fucker out. Like, ill thought out, okay? Like his wakeboarding hobby.
But haven't you seen how much sunscreen that dude wears? Like, I don't know that you could actually, from a distance, get a shot through that sunscreen. Like, that's a
you think
like
it's the
that's a shell.
penetration? You think it's the penetration of the sunscreen, or it's kind of like a boxer when they grease the face, then the bullet's gonna just ricochet off because there's so much sunscreen.
I think it's a protective shell.
He doesn't need all those bodyguards because of the white mask that he's wearing. I don't know.
I mean, I gotta tell you, if he was ginger, it's basically killing him to tow him around the back of the boat in the sun anyway. I mean, if it's like Saranandal or something, like, you really don't need the bodyguards. You just tow him around in the sun for like 3 hours, and that's terminal for those guys.
3 hours? Shit, you could fry one of those dudes a lot quicker than 3 hours. That's on low heat, man. That's winter sun in Minnesota.
So I think, Carson, you actually had a really interesting point on United Healthcare and this furor around healthcare coverage in the US.
Yeah. So look, I have a close family member who's going through the healthcare system right now, and yeah, it's horrible. I mean, it's completely fucked up. But you can't look at insurance companies and say that, oh, it's insurance company greed, they're eating all the profits. When you look at the profit margins of insurance companies, they're not massively profitable businesses. What you've had here is, I mean, you have a situation in which there are so many layers now that game the system and just suck value out of it. I mean, some of the worst offenders in healthcare have been the pharmaceutical benefit managers, the PBMs. And that was such a scummy, highly profitable business that, like CVS acquired a PBM. And I think they're even looking at spinning out the pharmacies and the leases to the shareholders so that they could keep the truly profitable business, which is the PBM. Then you've got the big drug distributors like Cardinal Health and McKesson. And one of the things I've also learned recently that's ancillary to this, but is that there have been chronic shortages of critical medications in the United States, even since before the pandemic. And one of the crazy things is if you go to, like, if you're in a certain hospital and you need a medication, well, they might tell you they don't have it. Well, that's just because they have an exclusive contract with, say, McKesson or Cardinal. But if you go to another hospital in the same town that has a contract with one of the other distributors, well, they very well could have it. So, and this is not to say that Mangione got the wrong company CEO. There's a cogent argument for that, but no, I kid. But it's just a system that's it's so rife with abuse. And I think that one of the reasons, or like really the principal reason for that, is you have so many rules. And when you have an industry or an area of the economy that has so many rules, well, the players that succeed are the ones who are best able to game the system and game the rules. And so that's why you have private equity coming in and rolling up various businesses that are in the healthcare sector, like nursing homes or, assisted living facilities. So, at the end of the day, I mean, there's no easy solution. And killing some guy, I mean, like the flip side of this is also, I mean, if you're sitting there as a United Healthcare employee, you don't necessarily think like, well, how many people did we deny coverage for? You think, well, how many operations did we actually cover? Like, how much life-saving medical care did we pay for? I mean, it's the vast majority of claims are actually paid. So it's not to say the system isn't fucked up. It is completely fucked up. There's no easy solution. And then look, one of the things we all know is that we in the United States subsidize the medication, pharmaceuticals for the rest of the world. Like we pay effectively substantially all of the R&D for every medication. So, I mean, like if you really wanted to do something to contain the costs, you have to start by, doing what Trump's doing with NATO and saying to other countries like, yo, you motherfuckers got to start paying for this or else we're going to ban exports of the medications to you. Now, I mean, that would be in many ways a horrible idea, but, I understand the anger. It's just what's depressing is seeing that everybody's cheering on the murder of this man who had a family. So yeah, I don't know where to start, but I don't think you can look at these health insurance companies and say, oh, well, let's just make you guys, like less shitty, and then boom, everything's fixed. It's far deeper, more complex than that, and there is no one or no handful of bad guys you can just go and shoot, unfortunately.
President Joe Biden issued a full pardon for his son Hunter, clearing him of federal tax and gun convictions and covering potential crimes from 2014 to 2024, including his controversial foreign business dealings. The move, which Biden justified as correcting a miscarriage of justice, contradicts his earlier promise not to intervene. Critics, including Donald Trump, have slammed the pardon as political abuse, while Hunter's lawyers have already moved to dismiss his cases. Yeah, Prince Andrew is thinking to himself, this is so fucking unfair. Like, this is just really unfair. Like, I'm born to someone who is chosen by God, and my crimes don't get wiped out. Like, I don't know if you guys have been following this, but Prince Andrew, in the last few weeks, that terminal fuck-up that he is, not only was he hanging out with Epstein, but he was also hanging out with a Chinese spy who has been banned from the UK. He was a Chinese businessman, and his crime, he's getting banned from Christmas Day lunch. Yeah, pretty bad, hey? Not doing a 5 stretch, he's getting banned from Christmas Day lunch. So, think about that. He's got to be really pissed off looking at what Hunter Biden gets to get away with.
Yeah, well, I mean, Hunter Biden's been getting away with a lot of shit for a long time, right? I don't know, like, it's kind of funny when people acted surprised, or when they were supposedly surprised by this pardon. I mean, of course he was always going to pardon Hunter. He's been coddling this little fuck up for guy's whole life. How do you think you turn out to be this degenerate in your 50s? Like fucking while you're married, like fucking your brother's widow and getting her addicted to fucking crack. Like, kind of horrible person. Yeah, like whatever. You knew that
Sounds
this
like
was going to
someone you would
continue.
hang out with, actually.
The mystery to me with Hunter and the widow was he into widow porn first, or was he into doing it in real life and then was like, oh, this is really cool, let's spice up the porn browsing?
I think he was into widow porn first.
Well,
It explains a lot.
I suspect that like Hunter is so far beyond any frontier I've gone to sexually that I suspect it was actually like there's a genre that he's really into, which is like snuff film widow. So it's like you
Wait,
kill
what?
the husband then and there, and then you go fuck the widow. Like that's got to be where that dude is.
Snuff.
Yes, snuff widow porn.
Krista, do not Google that on a work computer. We will use it against you. Bryan Johnson wants you to bet on his boners. The tech bro, obsessed with staying young forever, has launched a betting market on his nighttime erections, the NTE. He shared insights into his NTE history, including a baseline of 2 hours and 12 minutes, with potential improvements thanks to therapies like shockwave and Botox. Johnson even claims international travel affects his NTE, calling it a crucial health metric tied to longevity. Now, to develop this further, the betting market is actually live on Polychain. I was really interested to see if I could actually put a trade on, and it was actually more complex than I could be bothered to do to sign up to Polychain, so I didn't get there. Otherwise, I was going to show off my trading prowess. Don't worry, we are not launching a strategy around this. It would be a PA trade, which I believe we're allowed to do on erections. But one of the best things about this is he's actually been updating people, like play by play on things that affect it. And he has mentioned that the measuring will take place after he has gone to China, I think for a week or 2 weeks. And so the headline that we could end up with here, if his nighttime erection timing is, underperforms the 2 hours and 12 minutes, is China is a boner killer. So I kind of want to take the under purely for that.
Well, no, but here's the other thing, right? Like I would take the under because there's an easy way he could throw this, right? Like so he bets on the under himself. I mean, you just fucking bust several nuts, that evening before you go to bed. I would think that you're unlikely to hit your average if you do that. And then one of the other things that I think is kind of funny about this is like, I don't know if he's married or not, and if he is, maybe that doesn't even really matter. But let's say he takes somebody to bed. I don't know if he's straight or gay, but takes a partner to bed, and like especially if it's a first time hookup. I mean, I remember those from back in the day, right? Like just keep waking up all night to go at it. If it was enjoyable, that is. Well, like if you're a partner and you then look the next day and you see that this dude wasn't really that much harder throughout the night than, like normally is, I mean, wouldn't that be insulting?
Well, I've actually got a more first principles issue. Who's measuring this? And, what measuring device do you use for...
Maybe there's like a sphygmomanometer cuff for your dick. You guys know what a sphygmomanometer is, right?
I do not, having...
I'm going to be looking
But
that up,
I'm
too.
glad we're about
He
to
has
find
one
out.
because I feel like you do this often.
Blood pressure cuff. Just what every short seller needs, right? So yeah. Now,
Get this during COVID.
Now, Krista, I am often in conversations with you explaining how large my dick is. This is
It's that big?
this is maybe a tiny bit too large for to measure
You're such a...
like
Out of
NTEs.
curiosity, why do you have that?
How often do you use it? We have a couple of questions with that.
Giant unmarked drones have been spotted flying all over New Jersey. leaving locals confused and mildly paranoid. But yo, I'm always talking about how New Jersey's got the best delis on the planet. So yeah, they're just there to get some
you're
Chatham
not
sandwich
surprised.
shop.
Okay.
No, man. I want to send a drone there to go pick up some subs and sloppy joes too. So, but anyway, officials won't admit that they're there for deli food. So they describe the drones as flying information, which sounds less like Amazon pizza delivery test and more like Black Mirror pilot episode. The FAA and local authorities are investigating, but haven't identified who's behind the flights. So, of course, now this turns into tinfoil hat Twitter is just exploding. And I just watched a video earlier today. Some guy, I guess he's got his own drone company in Wichita, Kansas, and he's propounding some theory about how when the Soviet Union fell, there were nukes from Ukraine that went missing, and clearly the government is looking for the missing nuke because they think it's in the New Jersey area, because New Jersey's top of the list to blow up, if you're going to do something. But anyway, so yeah, it's, I don't know, guys. I would love it if they could pick up some sandwiches for me and bring them back here. It'd be fucking fantastic.
Nice.
What about that as a new key performance indicator? So, most drones, I think, market the payload and the distance, but what do you think to a key performance indicator for a drone that's distance that you can travel and keep a deli sandwich both hot and intact?
Well, okay, first of all, most of your deli sandwiches are not hot sandwiches. The exception being pastrami and corned beef.
Philly cheese.
But what's that?
Philly cheesesteak.
That's not deli though. That's not, that's where we're from. That's not deli, right? That's maybe in South Jersey, but yeah. I don't know, man. That's a good question. It also, has the oil and vinegar overly saturated the bread by the time it's delivered. You don't want it. You don't want that. That's not good. So yeah, I'd care about that. I don't know, man, but I just think it's, for whatever reason, it's so hard to get really good deli outside of New York, New Jersey area. So I just think that's what, why does no other part of the country have drones? It's got to be the deli. What else are you going to New Jersey for?
Time magazine has named Donald Trump its Person of the Year for the second time, following a controversial comeback in the political spotlight. Despite his constant media criticism of
Sorry, dude. We got your kid screaming in the background.
I know. She's it's
controversial.
She's a libertarian. Despite his constant media criticism of publications like Time, he'll be ringing the opening bell at the NYSE to celebrate the feature. The honor places him alongside controversial picks like Vladimir Putin and Hitler, proving that Person of the Year may not exactly mean person everybody likes.
When was Hitler Person of the Year? Does Time magazine have a Person of the Year that goes back that far?
I'm going to Google this. I'm going to find out. I mean, Hitler was Man of the Year in 1938. It wasn't even early 30s Hitler. That's pretty controversial. How many times has Putin won it? Just the once? Trump is going to totally hold that over him at the next G7 and be like, oh, look, we got some great guys here. I'm the greatest. I've won Time Person of the Year twice. This guy, he won it once. Not so great.
Well, I assure you that Trump is not going to do that to Putin at the next G7.
You don't think Putin's going to be back in the G7 after they make up on Ukraine? Bygones will be bygones.
Hang on a second here. I don't think Russia is a member of the G7.
Really?
No, it is not. It's Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the UK, and the US, as well as the EU.
That makes a total fucking
That's embarrassing, bro.
Of the G7. Firstly, Canada is basically a state. Okay? France has a sovereign that trades, I think, outside of Greece. Italy, what the fuck? This is a total joke of an organization. This is like the saddest organization ever.
I I think it's based on who has auto manufacturing industries for cars that we actually want to buy.
I
And
mean, the only-
Canada does assemble a decent number of cars sold in North America. So, based on that metric, yeah, G7 is about auto manufacturing countries that Westerners will buy cars from.
I mean, the only countries that deserve to be there are the US and obviously the great colonial power that is the UK.
Speaking of people trying to get back into Trump's good graces, Meta, I'm not calling this thing Meta, it's still Facebook. Okay, like we know why you changed the name. It's because the Wall Street Journal was doing a series of expose pieces on how you knowingly addicted all these teenagers to Instagram to, in order to cause them to kill themselves. So, and then when the articles broke, you're like, let's change the name from Facebook. So fuck you, you're Facebook. So Facebook has donated $1 million to Donald Trump's inaugural fund following the meeting between Zuckerberg and Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Now, while the company doesn't specify why, the donation apparently aligns with Zuckerberg's efforts to improve relations with Trump after blocking his accounts post January 6th. And so Zuck has since reached out to Trump and expressed regret over past political involvement, including Facebook's 2020 electoral contributions. This is the second time we've brought Zuckerberg up here in this podcast episode. And where's the cage fight between him and Elon? Like, why do we talk about Zuckerberg at all without bringing up the cage fight that was supposed to happen?
That's very true. I guess Elon's like, I don't have to work out anymore because I'm hanging out with Trump
Has he
and
ever?
I've won the real fight here. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, I can't tell. Like, so Elon went on Ozempic, and then he got kind of thin. But did he balloon up again?
Huh.
Like, I can't tell where he is. It seems like he's not being a good little Ozempic
Yeah,
patient
I feel
here.
like he's probably on Ozempic and then still eating anything he wants. Maybe, I don't know.
Honestly, we were actually just having a discussion earlier this morning about Krista's spending habits, and she's like, well, I want to sign up to this like nice new gym, but I also want to buy this piece of art. And I was like, look, from my perspective, totally selfish. I don't mind if you put on a few pounds if you bring the art in. If I've got to look at heavy Krista, I don't really care if you bought the art or not. So that's where I sit on it, Krista.
By the way, I'm not telling you guys anything anymore. Every time I privately speak to you, I don't know why you feel, let's mention it on the podcast. I have no idea. Or let's mention it at dinner in front of all the other colleagues. I don't know.
Oh, dude. I mean, we just had our holiday party. There were no secrets that you kept from everybody at the
Really?
table. Okay, there were
Really?
no secrets. Yeah.
What did I say? Anything bad? Don't even say it. I don't want to know.
Well, okay. By
Cindy
the end
said
of
I
the
was
night,
kissing everybody on the cheek, like making people like I'm basically who's that guy who's in prison? I am that guy.
P. Diddy.
No, not P Diddy. The other guy. I don't even
Harvey
know.
Weinstein?
Yes, I'm the Weinstein
Yes.
of the office, and I
Yes.
don't want to be.
So,
I'm gonna change, which is why I'm
stop
drinking
being.
water now.
No. So what were you saying? Well, by the end of the night, it was you never something like that.
Actually, we've actually got a clip of it,
delete this?
guys.
Shut the
We've
hell
got a
up.
clip of it, and what we want to play. This bit you can edit out, but we want to play the scene from Wolf of Wall Street where he climbs out the country club. He's like,
Shut up. Okay.
like that's. So yes. Anyway, guys, that was Krista leaving the Christmas party.
Yeah.
South Korean protests against President Yoon's martial law declaration are blending activism with K-pop culture. The rallies feature customized glow sticks popular with K-pop fans, food trucks, and Christmas carols rewritten for impeachment. Despite the fun atmosphere, the political crisis continues with arrests and failed impeachment attempts. I'm not even going to pretend that I understand what is going on in South Korea at the moment.
But they did impeach him. They did, I think, get the impeachment through whatever the fuck passes for a legislature there.
Well, what's really funny is we had a guy in to fix our washing machine. Really nice guy if you're in the Austin area, called Vasily, a Ukrainian gentleman, and my wife is Korean, and I don't know. I just asked him when he moved here, and he was like, "Oh, before the war, blah blah blah," and I can't remember how he got talking about it. He's a really smart guy, like very knowledgeable about global politics, and he's just like, yeah, I mean, what's going on in South Korea? And he knew a lot more about it than I did. But I knew the second least amount. And as my wife's South Korean, I felt pretty good about that. So there you go. No one understands what's going on in South Korea.
It is a baffling place. I mean, the only thing that I know about it is great place to be long, awful place to be short. This past week, it seems like every 6 months, Bloomberg has to write an article bashing short sellers, or especially activist short sellers. And the funny thing is, the articles that come out are generally written by journalists there who have had a lot of courtesies extended to them by activist short sellers, and it even partly built their career on getting leads from activist short sellers or stories from activist short sellers. So one of them, the most recent story, is written by this guy, a Bloomberg journalist named Tom Schoenberg. Now, Tom is, I was particularly disappointed in this because back in the spring of 2022, we invited Tom and one of his colleagues to our office in Austin, and they spent the whole day with us, and nothing was off limits. They sat in a real research meeting where we were discussing names that we did end up publishing on. They watched how we trade. There were a number of things that were off the record, but nothing was off limits. And they told us repeatedly that, to their knowledge, no journalist at Bloomberg had ever gotten anywhere near that kind of access to any hedge fund ever. Okay? That is how transparent we were. Well, so of course the headline that Schoenberg writes last week is about secret communications among short sellers. And it talks about how there's this other hedge fund up in Canada named Anson, which, as far as I know, is involved in the balance sheet provision business. And they did have some transaction with Andrew Leff that is mentioned in Andrew's indictment and SEC complaint. But so it talks about how this one lawsuit has exposed the fact that Anson talks to short sellers. There's secret communications. And it's so annoying, right? Because, do long-side investors ever talk to each other without publishing their call logs openly and publishing transcripts? Of course, but only when it's short sellers is it secret communications. And that also goes back to the article that ran in Institutional Investor a few years ago, in which I was openly discussing the balance sheet provision model. And, the headline that got stuck on that was the dark money behind, so it's just it's so trite. It's so annoying. It's so off the shelf and intellectually lazy, as well as selective and outright untrue at times, that they're always in, Bloomberg and other parts of the media attaching these superlatives to just the, normal things that everybody does. It's like short sellers secretly take shit,
Well,
just
to be fair, Carson,
publish it.
They did kind of include that in the Bloomberg article.
They actually did.
Where you let out your ass.
They
They actually were pretty. They were pretty transparent on that.
It was pretty out of my ass. It was pretty graphic, pretty detailed.
That's a good example. Tom Schoenberg was one of two on the byline in which I talked to them about how I was literally bleeding out my ass on a cross-country flight when we were being front run on the trade. Okay, I talked about how I got off the plane and my fucking jeans were soaked with blood. That's how transparent we were. But no, short sellers are secret communications. It's such bullshit. Tom, you should fucking be ashamed of yourself because you know better. And you know better. Fuck that. Write a real article about short sellers.
I have nothing to add other than Tom. I didn't
Good
bleed
luck,
out
Tom.
my ass right back.
Hey, man.
Yes.
Have you ever... Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Actually, it turns out heavy is the diaper that bears the ass that wears the crown, but whatever. We're all good. No, it sucks. It's lazy. It's intellectually dishonest, and I think honestly we've as a group thought through what could we do differently. We've probably given all of these people more time and access over the years. I think most of us have been 10 times more transparent than any other group of fund managers, and they know better. They know it's lazy and sensationalist. And I understand that. I understand there's a balance where you are trying to sell the news, even though they find that really dirty to admit to themselves. But constantly rehashing the same,
Same tropes.
Like 10 tropes,
Just
and
tropes.
5 different dressed up headlines that are actually articles that, if they were any good at research, they could have written 5 to 10 years ago.
Yeah,
then
no,
it might have been-
my favorite, other trope that appears in Bloomberg's coverage, these are in the Lisa Pham articles, which Lisa kind of made her career, in Hong Kong, writing about companies that were frauds that were identified by activist short sellers. The Lisa Pham trope is not all short sellers manipulate stocks. There's like this one girl in college who, I think wanted to bone me, but when she found out that I was dating, nobody knew I was dating, the woman who'd become my wife. But so she walked up to, my soon to be future girlfriend and then wife and said, "I know you're not a fucking slut, but it's like, same sort of thing. Like, not all short sellers manipulate stocks, but." So anyway, fuck that. Like, come on, guys, you went to college for this shit. Like, ChatGPT is going to be taking your jobs real soon if this is the best you guys can do.
Okay, so that's a wrap up for 2024 from us.
Thanks for joining us. See you on the other side.